Hello. All right. Well, I got some progress. It held up for a little bit, but back on it here. So where am I at? I did a little light sanding on this top piece, the top clamshell. Basically, it had some like sanding lines in it. So I just did a light scuff, and I kind of shaped some of the lines that I had lost. One thing I can say about this kit is that the fit is not great. I like the kit and all that, so I'm not going to really talk bad about it, but the fit really wasn't great. Had a lot of seams and this and that. So the seams on these, I just went around with the seam filler, and I used this is a small dowel. Basically it was a Q-tip. Just cut the ends off, and I got a whole bunch of them here. And get a piece of cardboard, put some of the seam filler stuff on there, and we'll basically just kind of paint it on in a light coat over the seam. And I try to be as conservative with it as possible, because you got to sand it off once it hardens. It sands pretty easily, but it does tend to be a bit of work and a little bit messy. So kind of just don't want to go overboard with it, but I got that setting up on there now. I had a big area here that had kind of deformed on me from the glue that I used inside, because I altered these and how they fit, and I'm going to be fitting them with these brass pieces that I had. That was an idea I just kind of came up with, and I thought maybe it would be a little bit more structurally sound than the way that it was before. Seeing that I was putting wires in it and not. I think if you had built the model without, sorry, my nose is stuffed up. I think if you had built the model without putting lights in it, it would be more than sufficient to support itself. But now that there's wires and LEDs and glue and stuff in it, it's going to be a little heavy. And I'm afraid that they might sag a bit, and I don't really want that. So I just reinforced it with this brass square tubing. So that's about it. Basically, I was kind of dreading this, kind of putting it off, because it's just kind of a pain to fill, especially in between all of these little, support structure parts, whatever they are, these lines. You have to get in between each one. Basically, I just kind of rolled it in and painted it in. I'm going to have to go back and sand. I fixed a lot of these, brought the detail back because they kind of filled in with some of the filler. And I just kind of went back with a little file and kind of sharpened them up a little bit. I'm going to give this another prime coat. That should fill a lot of the sanding marks I had, and that'll look pretty good. I'm probably going to have to sand all this down, prime it once, and then do the same and go over those again. I have to tape the windows off before I prime. And that's something that I mentioned before, that has to go through to a final paint, because once you take them off, it'd be you could tape them again, but it's difficult. You might as well just leave it on there. When you get a final coat of paint on there, and you feel good about it, and you're either assembled or ready to assemble, then you can pull them off. And that'll be a good time to do that. So that's about where I'm at. Yeah, I think the next step is to just keep on working on those, sanding, and then I probably will assemble everything and then probably try and paint it. But we'll get to that when I get to it, and that'll be after all this. So I'm going to prime this when I probably prime those for the first time. That'll be a second prime on that. That I can set aside. This will be a first prime. I'll have to sand those, do a first prime, sand them again, do little touch-ups, and then prime a second time around. Again, I got to do the windows, and that's about it. So that's where I'm at. So check back, and we'll get some more progress on the K7.